Alright, so today we are looking at composite functions. So before we get stuck into that, let's just remind ourselves of what a function is. So what's the whole idea around a function? I put something in and I get something out. Okay, so I have a function, this is f of x, and I have an input, and usually that input is x, and I get an output. And output. Okay. So that's what we looked at that last term. That is what a function is. Okay. Now, can we put anything into our function all the time? There might be some exceptions. For instance, if our function is 1 on x, can we put 0 into our function? No. But for all intents and purposes, if it's something valid we can put in, then we get something out from our function. So if we put in, let's say our function is 5x take 2, and we put 3 into our function, then 5 times 3 take 2, we get out 13. Okay, 5 times 3 is 15, take 2, which is 13. Okay, so that's our basic idea of a function. Now, what would happen if I did this? Let's say we have another function, so we'll keep that as fx, and let's let g of x equal, let's go, x squared take x. Let's go with that. Okay. Now, what about if I wanted to put something? I wanted to give something to g of x, and then whatever the output of that was, I wanted to put that into f of x. Okay. So g of x is this box here. So g of x, we have x squared take x with an input and an output. Okay, so let's say I want to put g of 2 into f of x. Okay, so I can put g of 2, so really what I'm wanting to do is this. I'm wanting to take 2, put it into g of x, whatever the output is, I'm going to put it into f of x, and then that's going to be my final output. Okay, is that going to be okay? Am I going to be able to do that? Let's give it a go. It would be 2 squared, take 2, which is, that would be 2, yeah. And then I'm putting 2 into this, so it's 5 times 2, take 2, which is 8. So my output is 8. Okay, so are we okay with that? So that's just like adding another step to it. What if I wanted to do this for a whole stack of numbers? So let's say I had like 10 numbers that I wanted to put into g of x and then take the g of that number and put it into f of x. How many calculations am I needing to do? 10 numbers, that's 20 calculations. Yeah? Would it be easier just to have a simple rule that I could just, whatever the output of g of x is, I can put into f of x and I get my answer. So like rather than having 2 functions I'm having to calculate on, I have 1 function. Okay, so what if I did this? I have my f of x function. Could I input g of x into f of x. We talked about before about valid inputs. Is a function a valid input for a function? Anyone think we're going to have a problem with this? Let's do it. So we'd have 5 times g of x take 2, and then g of x is actually this function here. So I've actually got 5 times x squared take x take 2. So my output is 5x squared take x take 2, which I can expand to 5x squared take 5x take 2. Okay, so this is actually, I'll write it over here, this is actually f of x, but I've inputted g of x into it. Okay, so I've inputted g of x into f of x. Now let's test this. I did it with 2 before, so if I go f of g of 2, it should be 5 times 2 squared take 5 times 2 take 2. So that's 5 times 4, that's 20 take 10 take 2, which is 8, which is the same thing as I got before. So what this is called is a composite function. So a composite function is a function of a function, and we actually have notation, and I'm going to make sure I get it right. So if I have f of g of x, we call that f naught g of x. Yeah, it's like a little circle there that we're going to be using. So that this is the composite function of f and g. So fog x. Now, I've done fog x. Now, what's the obvious question? Maybe it's obvious. What's the question that arises from this? What if not quite. What would happen if I put f of x into g of x? Do we think we'd get the same thing? No? Let's try it. What about g naught f? So gof x. So that would be g naught f would be so x squared. So we'd have 5x take 2 squared take 5x take 2, which would be, that's 25x squared take 10x, no, take 20x plus 4 take 5x plus 4, which is 25x squared take 25x plus 8. Is that the same as fog x? Fog x was that. That's fog x, that's gof x. They're slightly different. Okay, so fog x does not equal gof x. So if you do it one way, you can't just do it the other way. Okay, so let's stop it there and we'll do some practice.